G'day everyone, Blake here with another video, and today I'm really excited to show you one of the more premium canister filter options available in Australia at the moment. This here next to me is the Oase Biomaster 350, and it's got some really unique and clever features that I'm excited to show you. So for this video today, I'm going to unbox it, show you everything you get, we're going to set it up, and I'm going to give you some insights into what I think really set this filter apart. So let's jump straight into the video. Just before we kick it off, I do like to be honest about these things, and I was supplied this canister filter free of charge from Aquarium Universe through Oase Australia. So definitely big thanks to both of those. With that said, I've definitely not been influenced, and there's no talking points or anything that I have to say. This is all my opinion that I'm going to provide throughout this video. So we do have two products here today. We've got the Oase Biomaster 350, and we've got the Heat Up 200 watt heater as well. So the key thing is you can buy the Biomaster Thermo 350, which does have the heater included, or let's say today you keep goldfish and tomorrow you decide to switch it up to flower horns or something like that, then you can buy the heater later if you start off with just the normal Biomaster. So the Thermo has it included, or the normal Biomaster has it separated, which I think is a good flexibility to provide. Inside the heater box you get 3 items essentially. Bit of a thick instruction book, which is for all their heaters. You get a bracket so that you can suction cup it to the inside of your aquarium, or the major advantage of using Oase products like the Biomaster here is that a lot of them have heater integration. So in this case, we're going to put this heater straight in our canister filter and have absolutely nothing obscuring the view of our fish in our aquariums. I think this is really something that elevates these products in particular above others, because they have thought about the hobbyist first of all and what we want to see, and generally it's fish and plants and not something like this in our aquarium. That being said, it's a pretty nice sleek looking unit here. You've got obviously the heater coils here, a blue knob at the top, which I'll talk about a bit later, and then some easy temperature identification there with the numbers as we turn the dial. So really excited to get this integrated into the canister filter and see exactly how that's going to work. So without any further ado, let's jump straight in and have a look at what's inside this box. Whilst I do, I'll let you know what I was talking about regarding the blue buttons. And another really great elevating feature of Oase products is that they have sort of made it for dummies, well, more so beginners rather than dummies, but they've color coordinated everything so that if ever on an Oase product you see something made in blue, that means you can touch it. Generally it's clips, things that unscrew. Everything else that's not blue, you don't need to touch at all. So I really like that aspect. It kind of just simplifies everything. And although experienced hobbyists might be familiar with canister filters and comfortable with their operation, a lot of beginners are daunted by them and confused by them and don't really understand how they work. So I do like that sort of has been simplified in advance. So first of all, the box is packed really safely. We've got a cardboard section on the top so that everything's going to be kept in place and not jump around during postage. We've got the main canister filter body here. Pretty big, sturdy unit, but another huge positive. If you've ever had a cheap canister filter before and you've tried to pick it up when it's been full to do your maybe annual cleaning, well, you'll know that it's a real pain. It's cumbersome, it's heavy, water sloshing around everywhere, slippery sometimes. Simple things like the inclusion of a handle is just game changing, I think. Like, maybe I'm getting excited about some small things, but it is really the small things when you come to consider different canister filters that make all the difference. So once again, thought about the hobbyist first, and a nice handle to lift it out, because a lot of us don't have canister filters in the middle of our living room, easier access. If you're anything like me, you've got it up the back corner somewhere, covered in stuff and just in a bit of a storage area out of sight. So stuff like this is really massive. And then outside of the filter body, we've got a bunch of hosing, should be plenty to get us to inside and out of our tank. We've got a bunch of connections and elbows and that sort of thing. We've got a spray bar, looks like we've got a additional coupling here for the heater integration, which we're definitely going to use. And we've also got some manuals, instructions and certificates. A couple of specs before we get further into the video on the Biomaster 350. It's recommended for aquariums up to 350 litres. It does up to 1100 litres per hour and in a fully efficient system, so not after it's been running for 12 months and so forth. Another really great aspect is that they're guaranteed for up to 4 years, which is fantastic. And these can also operate on marine and freshwater aquariums. At only 18 watts, it's very efficient, and I believe it's also going to be super quiet as well. So we'll put that to the test shortly, but yeah, I think overall it should be a really great filter to place on any aquarium up to about that 4-foot range. So to get into the body of the filter itself, once again, another great idiot-proof design so that you can't accidentally do it is, first of all, you've got to flip the handle up into the vertical position. Then there's just 4 clips on every side. So the 2 just clip out and then up and over, out, up and over. The sides just the same, out, up and over. At that point, you can use your awesomely integrated handle and lift the whole body off, being careful not to crack or bend this pre-filter section here. I'll just sit the top of the body down here inside the box out of harm's way, and we'll have a look at what we get inside the actual filter. So inside the filter, you get 5 trays that you can fill up with whatever media you like. Do pay careful attention though to, first of all, this top graded section. I've definitely lost these on canister filters in the past, and they do make the canister fairly noisy because this is going to keep the media out of your impeller that's going to suck water out of the canister. So definitely keep a close eye on that one, especially while doing maintenance. Then in the top section, it looks like we have some fine red sponge pad here, and once again color coordinated so we can simply see what it's going to be, at least for now until it fills up with muck. So that goes on the top. Next up we have some coarse sponge media, still not too coarse at all, you can't really see through it, but coarse enough that we're not going to have to basically clean this guy out every few months. The coarse sponge then continues through the 3rd and 4th trays as well. And in the last tray at the bottom here, we've got some what looks to be K1 biomedia here. So this is like a plastic material here that's got lots of surface area in which to harbor bacteria. Some really nice inclusions there of filter media. However, when I put it back together, I am just going to change the layout a little bit. So always with canister filters, it's important to understand the way that water moves inside them. Some of them, the water goes from bottom to top. Some of them, the water goes from top to bottom. In the case of this Oase Biomaster here, water goes in this intake here, through this pre-filter sponge, up the center, then past the heater, and then from bottom to top. So when you consider that, obviously you want to keep your biomedia at the end and your sponges before that, because the sponges are really going to stop and filter all of that muck, and it's going to lead to less clogging of your biological media that is not really designed to catch debris, more so just grow bacteria. So when I put this back together, I'm going to put the sponges down the bottom, and then directly on top of that I'm going to place this biomedia just to make sure that it has the less possibility of clogging. However, with that said, it's going to take ages to clog up because it's got to go through 4 layers of sponge material plus this pre-filter sponge, which I'll show you now. The pre-filter sponge, once again, Oase have absolutely nailed it with their idiot proofing. And what you have here on the front of the lid here is 2 blue clips once again, so it means that you can move them. And what you got to do is, first of all, move the inlet outlet one to the locking position before you can actually unlock the pre-filter sponge. Once that is unlocked, you can simply pull it out, and this is our pre-filter. And with regards to the pre-filter sponge, once again, Oase have just absolutely nailed it with this one. So the most notoriously difficult thing about canister filters is cleaning them. And for that reason, a lot of people put off the cleaning to 6 monthly, yearly. It's just not great for your fish. But this here has kind of redefined the canister filter game in that this is a pre-filter sponge, which is going to catch majority of that detritus, maybe some plant matter, debris, and that sort of thing that we're going to catch it before it goes into the main body of our canister filter. These things here, because we're not really relying on them to harbor our biological bacteria, we can just hose these off, wash them straight off in the sink, and we're good to go. So by simply having something on the top of your canister filter that you can turn it off maybe when you do water changes, quickly unlock those 2 clips and pull this out hose it off, and within 5 minutes you're ready to go. You'll probably save yourself having to do major cleans on your canister filter for months and months at a time. It's also going to mean that while it is in use, your canister filter is going to be a lot more efficient. There's going to be less demand on your motors and that sort of thing, and it's just going to keep it going for a lot longer. So I think this is a great idea. As well as that, if you have this on your Oscar tank or something that's a big producer, maybe a bristlenose breeding tank or something where a lot of waste is going to be produced, they even come to the party and give us options for more coarse sponge pre-filters. So just fantastic. I love this sort of ingenuity. And overall, just such a great idea for canister filters. You know, I don't know why they're not more common, but I guess that is what you pay for when you get a filter like this. So I really love that pre-filter intake. There's 5 different sponges, and the inside kind of looks like a spray bar. There's holes so that the water can get through. So as one clogs up, it can go to the next one, go to the next one, and you don't actually have to rely on just one single one of these before the whole thing becomes inefficient. So really love that. Easy to pull apart and get back on. Just a simple matter of a couple of little clips, which you can just see right there. So just depress those clips there, open it up, take off the sponge filter sections and hose them off, or wash them in your sink if your significant other isn't around to yell at you. The other thing about this pre-filter canister here as well is that obviously you can see the top of it is blue, and that's because that is our canister filter priming button. So we're going to use that on first use to fill up the canister filter, and it's going to make life a lot easier. You're not going to have to be sucking on any hoses or anything like that. All you do is you get all the hoses hooked up and into your aquarium, press this 3 or 4 times, and it should start to fill up on its own, which is really great. So we'll get this back in the canister now, which is really easy. All you have to do is line up these 2 tabs here with the 2 gaps in the top. Just simply slot them in that spot, and then just simply slide the clip back across, locking it firmly in place. In the exact same manner, if you've lasted a long time and you're ready to clean the full body, the same way that the pre-filter canister pops out, there's a clip here that unlocks the actual inlet and outlet, and that just releases the top of it so that you can pull this out. Obviously it will be attached to hoses and you can leave that in your aquarium, but the good thing is that sliding that clip across and unlocking it actually closes off the valves in here, so you're not going to have water rushing off everywhere in your aquarium. Once again, we'll just place this back in our filter and slide it across to lock. Now the last thing on the top of the filter here is the heater inlet, and generally speaking, when you receive the Biomaster 350, you will just receive a cap that looks like this, and it's just a simple matter of having an O-ring on the bottom and just turning it in place. However, if you do want to use your Heat Up 200, they provide a heater replacement for that, and it's the same kind of principle, but it has an O-ring on the outside and it's open so that you can place your heater inside. Do check the compatibility of which heater works with which model, but it says it all on the box, so you should be able to see it up front before you purchase anything. So what I'll do now is I'll just replace this cap in the top of the canister filter here, and we should be ready to go to slide our heater in when it comes time to using the filter. Okay, so now that we know all the components of the top of the canister filter, it's time to place the baskets back in the order that I mentioned previously. To know which way to orient the baskets, you can see there is a circular section at the bottom of this, and that corresponds to this cutout on the filter basket. So obviously there's really only one way you can orient them properly. The other thing to keep in mind is this shallower basket will have to be the top basket because it's the one that the top grate fits on. It's also the only one without these sort of arms on the side here, which are going to help to nest them all in place. So with our new orientation, I'm going to place the 3 coarser sponges at the bottom 3 layers. The next tray up, I'm going to place our biomedia here, mainly just because it's a bigger tray. I did try to put it in the top tray, but it's a little bit skinnier and it didn't really fit properly, but the amount of sponge that it's going to have to pass through, it should be perfectly fine. And then at the top, I'm going to place the finer sponge material as well as the lid, and our filter is assembled, ready to go. Also, you probably noticed that I left this media here inside the bag. and that's because this is going to float, so leave it in the bag, otherwise you'll end up with it throughout your canister filter when you open it up and lift up the first tray. So just give it a firm push down, make sure that everything's nested properly, and that's basically how the filter goes together. We'll then go ahead and place the top section back on, sliding that pre-filter sponge down correctly. Make sure that all the O-rings on the outside and everything else haven't come loose, but they shouldn't have, especially on the first go. Reconnect the 4 clips around the outside of the filter, and then just make sure that the clips at the front of the filter are in the locked position. Now obviously you can see here I've got a hole here where my heater is going to go, so be careful about turning on the filter without the heater in that hole. So I'll just slide the heater down into that position now, because I do intend to use the heater in the filter like so. So now it's time to assemble our hosing and all the various fittings, and that is pretty simple as well. First of all, I'll assemble the intake, and you might notice here you've got the spray bar and intake pipe here that all look very similar, but the difference is the intake one is the one without holes. So the other two have holes. Be careful about that, you don't want to mix that up. So for the rest of the intake, obviously we don't want our fish sucked in, so we've got this protective grate here, which just clips onto the end of this connector here. This connector here is tapered as well, so that'll just slide onto the end of our clear section like so. This is also kind of height adjustable as well, which is handy, so it should fit a range of different aquariums. Just keep an eye on if you can see it through the end there, because it won't be as efficient if it's all the way to the bottom of there. Keep it to at the very least halfway and you should be fine. Once you've got that assembled, you'll see these rectangular pieces here. And this side with the thread, you just place one of these blue nuts on there. That's going to secure the vinyl tubing in place. On the other side, we'll place our intake on there. The other cool thing about this that I like they've thought about, once again, we have a blue section here, and you can actually twist this to open up or close the inlet to let in more or less water, so you can slow up the filter in that way if you wish. So that's the intake done, and now we're going to do the outlet. So once again, we'll start off with one of these rectangular sections, just placing a blue nut on the end. We can also adjust, just like the other one, min or max flow, if you want to slow up the flow once again or speed it up. Then we have this elbow section here, which is going to slot directly in like so. And we're going to attach our spray bar to that if we choose to use a spray bar. If you don't wish to use a spray bar for whatever reason, you can just leave it like that and water will flow out of there perfectly fine. But if you want more gentle flow or maybe more aeration if you're pouring it at the surface, you can definitely use a spray bar. You can use it with just one section like this, being sure to put a cap on the end of it so that the water doesn't just flow directly out the end. Or alternatively, if you've got a very wide tank, you can also use this coupler here, which is just a cut section of vinyl tubing. Slide that over the end and then place a second piece like that. I believe just by eye that should be over 2 foot, so you might need to even cut that down using some PVC cutters or something like that. For me, I'm just going to use one of these most likely, and I can decide later on anyway if I choose to. So I'll just place the cap in there, and that is the outlet all done as well. There is of course 2 more blue nuts that we're going to place on the threads of the inlet and outlet actual tube on the top of the canister filter as well, and we're going to use those to tighten the vinyl tubing directly to the filter in the same manner that we're going to use for the intake and outlet. You do get one more option in terms of the outlet if you wish to have something a bit more spread out, but not so much as a spray bar. You get this sort of spoon-like shovel piece here, which is going to spread that flow a little bit without sort of aerating the tank. The only other pieces that you get in the box, which you might be confused about, are these pieces here, and they're just suction cup clips that are going to help to keep the intake and outlet on this side of your aquarium. So you just simply take them and clip them directly onto the spray bar or whatever you wish, and then stick that then on the side of your aquarium to keep it firmly in place. So that's basically it when it comes to assembly. The only other thing that you really need to do is attach the hosing from the top of the point of the canister here to the top of this section here that we've just created. Now, when you do so, make sure that you connect it right. These are cleverly labeled in and out. So make sure that this spray bar piece here connects to the out, and the opposite piece, the intake here, connects to the in. To connect them is fairly simple. You just take the end of your vinyl tubing that's been provided, push it firmly onto the end of the inlet and outlet, and then you just turn this blue nut to tighten it in place. If you're finding, like me, that you can't really push it on, it's being really difficult, you can get a cup of boiling water and just dip the end in that boiling water, you know, just for a period of a minute or two. It'll warm it up, soften it up, and it should make it a lot easier to slide over the end of your connection. Another thing you get inside the box, which you might be a bit confused about in the beginning, is 4 of these little rubber fellas here. And what they are actually are feet, which are going to help to reduce noise and vibrations. So it's just a matter of just slotting them into the various holes here. Just push them in, maybe give them a bit of a twist. They'll work firmly into their gaps once the filter's been running for a little while anyway. So once the hoses are finally connected, you should be ready to have this running on an aquarium. So I'll shoot over to the fish room now and we'll have a look at this filter in action. I'll give you some closing thoughts and why I think that this is a great filter and is definitely worth the money. So let's head over to the fish room and check it out. Okay guys, so it's been about a week now since I set up the Oase Biomaster 350 on this aquarium here, and it's going really fantastic. As far as the heater integration, it's working really well as well. The water's kept nice and toasty and I've had no issues with that either. I decided to set it up on this aquarium because there's some existing algae issues which I'm working to clear up, but the good thing about that is that it means there's lots of debris and stuff floating around in the aquarium as that algae does die off. And I wanted to test this to see how clogged up the inlet would get, and I've been pretty surprised about that too. I just checked it today and sort of cleaned around it, but I'd say it's held up really well considering the amount of free floating debris that's been in there, and it hasn't clogged up much at all. So after running this filter for a week now, I do have to say that I'm incredibly impressed. This Biomaster 350 does come with a bit of a hefty price tag, but for that price tag, you get a really high quality filter, you get things that are just not seen in filters anywhere else, such as the pre-filter, heater integration, you get adjustable flow from the inlet and outlet, you get a priming function, and it's just a whisper quiet operation. I do think that the price tag is worth it if you are looking to set up a nice sort of high-tech aquarium, or if you've got a aquarium in a living space or a communal space that you don't want something that's going to be noisy and really a big hassle to clean. If that is the case and you had to sort of pull or drag out this big clunky canister filter every few months to clean it, making a big mess in your living room, you could very easily cause some tension amongst other household members, and something like this could really save you a lot of headaches. So huge thanks to Oase Australia and Aquarium Universe for hooking this one up. If you do want 10% off, you can head over to the website and use code Blake's Aquatics at checkout. And that should be a nice little discount for you there. So yeah, really impressed by this. It's pretty easy to set up, pretty hassle-free, and quite adjustable and quiet for everyone's needs. So if this video helped you out, it always helps me out to smash like, hit subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And other than that, I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.